Jean-Jacques, the story behind the making of the film is almost as epic as the picture itself, isn't it? What can you tell us about the origins of the project, which stretched back to over 30 years ago, I believe?
Well, I've discovered Africa like 40 years ago, was transformed by the shock of discovering that continent. After that, I dared making movies in Asia. And I know how those movies transform my heart. And in between those two continents was the Arab world. It's a world that fascinated me since I was a kid, with those magnificent Orientalist paintings, the smell of what I imagine, the incense in the harems and the souks and the vastness of the desert. And I also was curious because I was hearing not so good news from that region. Therefore, I wanted to see by myself. I went there, discovered people with a great dignity, with a great sense of hospitality, and the terrible worry not to be seen as they are, but painted with the colors of something they hate. So I felt that it was a need to show what I was feeling. And for the last 20 years, I've been looking for a project. I was offered several, ended up seeing an old friend of mine of Tunisian origin, my producer Tarek Ben Ammar, who said to me, well, for the project you're suggesting, I have a good book for you to read. He gave me this book, the story of a young prince torn between two fathers and two conceptions of life and future, right at the center of what I like to do, because most of my movies are that, a young person discovering a new culture, being not knowing which way to go, and then being modified, transformed by what he discovers. And we were spot on. That novel, written in the 50s, had all the seeds of what goes wrong in our days. What goes wrong in the Arab world for sure, but also in the general world. What was spectacular is that we went with that need, and then when we started shooting, the Arab world started to boil. And then it went up and up and up, and the tension and the hope and fear was creeping into our set. And we could not believe that we were shooting something that was set in the past but reflected our days. And then when we ended up having the armies led by our young prince, getting into the city of one of the Sultan and having this crowd saying, kill him, that same day. We were shooting in Tunisia. This is the day Ben Ali left, that day, at that moment, in real life. And so it was very fulfilling, because we had the impression that doing fiction in those beautiful settings was mirroring the tensions and the imbalance of the day.
And tell us about your young lead, Tahar Rahim. What for you are the qualities that make him one of the best actors of his generation, as you've described him, and why was he so right for the young prince?
Well, I wanted someone coming from this world, because there is a relationship to body language that is special. And as it was something that I wanted to show the depth of the heart. I ended up with 3 actors. I did film test, and Tahar has something quite unique. He has his heart in his eyes. He's a guy of a wonderful sincerity. I remember when I worked with Brad Pitt on 7 Years in Tibet, I found the same thing in Brad. You know, Brad is an honest man. Whatever he does, you see the honesty. And the same thing for Tahar. He has a pumping heart, he's generous, and he has also the sparkle of youth. And, you know, as it is the story of this kid that sees himself as a librarian, frankly. He loves books and he has no ambition. And the events of life lead him to become a warrior and a leader. I wanted to see this evolution and all this conflict coming from the innocence, almost the naivety of this young man, to someone that has that strength. And I had seen, of course, Tahar in The Prophet, where there were those two things. You know, first he's just an ordinary little guy, and then he becomes this menacing, threatening, powerful young man. That is, you know, what a great actor gives you, not only a performance, but he gives you his heart.
Jean-Jacques, Arnaud, thank you very much.